Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to our show at Sadai Haq. Today's date is the 28th of April. I hope you guys are doing well. And my best wishes to you and your family and your friends. It's been a while since I've been, since I've come in live. I just want to convey my greetings to everybody. I hope all of you are doing well. I hope your families are doing well. Again, it's a great day. It's a Sunday. Usually Sundays are calm family days. A lot of folks in the community, they tend to families tend to be with each other. They want to be able to spend time with one another, and I think that's the beauty of Sunday, especially when it comes to Saturday and Sunday. And what I've noticed is that a lot of people, what they do is that you have certain families that are still working Saturdays, and you have a couple of folks that don't work Saturdays. There's no school. Certain families, they have Saturday and Sundays off, but then there's some of us, and some family members who actually do go ahead and they work on Saturdays. And when Sunday comes along, they're off. And just like today, I always encourage families to please watch the show if you can. Usually I provide educational shows, and it's I've gotten great feedbacks from family members asking me to do more and more programs, try to do programs for the youth, for the children. But then again, I would always say to the families that I am providing and I am giving information to the youth, to the children, but at the same time, this is for the adults too. This is a program set to help educate everybody in the community. Again, a lot of us face challenges, a lot of us face similar challenges, and I think we all need to acknowledge that, and we all need to learn that we all go through the same issues and same problems as it is. And reason why I say that, dear brothers and sisters, is that not too long ago, so I also work for a nonprofit organization called Access California Services. As you had noticed the past couple of times, I've been promoting an intro. I've been doing an introduction of a couple of speakers for our for our conference, which did take place in, alhamdulillah, we had over 350 people show up. And for that, I was trying to promote the speakers for the conference. And the same way, what had happened was that I was working alongside different agencies. For instance, I work with the Muslim community, and then you have folks who serve like the Korean community, the Persian Iranian community. Then you have those that are serving the Cambodian family, the Chinese community. So what we did was a couple of the agencies came together in the Spanish community. So what had happened was that we all came together and we worked on a project that was proposed to us. And part of the project was that we go ahead and do stigma dialogue therapy. So every year, the way it worked is that we would always bring in groups of youth, children, adults, and we would have two different sessions, one for the youth and for the children, the other for the adults. What we did in the process was that we did expressive art therapy. In doing that, we're trying to make sure that the families and individuals that come and they participate in these programs, they are expressing their thoughts and feelings and their emotions through expressive art therapy, because research has shown that even expressive art therapy has been very effective. Not everyone is vocal, not everyone wants to go to therapy and sit and talk to somebody, and that can be due to multiple reasons. Number one, they're uncomfortable. They don't want to talk about their personal challenges to someone that they don't know, which is understandable. It's not hard. Number two, because they were raised in a community where they are told not to talk about their feelings and their emotions and their family challenges, right? That's also understandable. Number three, they've never learned to express their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, and that's also understandable, because what we have came to realize is that through my work with a lot of clients, is that a lot of clients have indicated that, especially men, when it comes to men, we don't really show our feelings, we don't talk about our emotions, our thoughts. It's kind of seen as a sign of weakness, which has caused them difficulties in their own personal life. It either be to themselves or with their partners or their families. So what has happened is that what I have come to understand is that for these individuals that have had a hard time coming to therapy, their thoughts and their ideas were actually pressed down from people in their community, from their family members, from their loved ones. So whenever they showed signs of weakness, to say, or not really weakness, but signs of emotions. When we were kids, what would happen is that you would cry, right? For instance, you would cry, and then I'm pretty sure what has happened is that a percentage of parents, they would kind of the child, right? Stop crying. Why are you crying? You're a guy. Don't cry. Guys don't cry. Even if it was a girl, why are you crying? Or the parents get even angrier at the child. So what has been caused here is that the parents or anybody in the community has kind of suppressed those individuals' emotions. So when it comes time, when they get older, when they need to talk to somebody, well, guess what? They can't. So then what ends up happening is that these other individuals, what we do with them is that we try to work through different form of therapy. It can be with children, play therapy. We'll play with them, during our therapy session. There's times where parents come to us and they say that my child tells me they play games, they play tic-tac-toe, they play Connect Four, they play chess. And that's because kids don't tend to comprehend well. As they're younger, they don't like to just sit still and they look at you. So what ends up happening is the reason why we make it very easy when they come to therapy session is that we try to sit with them and we tell them, we usually do expressive art therapy or play therapy, as to say, is that we focus their attention on an object. And what ends up happening is that now they're starting to release chemicals, good chemicals in their brains. And when that happens, they're not guarded as much, right? Now they're not quiet. Now the actual person, whoever they are, that means their character, the child's characteristics, their behavior, how they would be with at home or by themselves, that would end up coming out. And then when that comes out, we're able to talk to them and talk about their challenges, their family issues, their family matters, what's going on, to really understand the person, right? So what we have done, just to come back to touch bases with what we're doing this year, is that instead of doing expressive art therapy, where we're bringing individuals to come to us and we do expressive art therapy, what we have done is, which actually has worked really effectively, is that we are bringing groups of people together. And what we have done is something called drawing out stigma, by doing stigma dialogue, by having a dialogue with community members. Just this morning, actually, I was watching the video that was put together, with the organization I work for, and then different organizations that work for different groups, ethnic groups, and you come to realize that a lot of us have the same challenges. A lot of us have the same problems. Again, we all live in America. To say that we all have the same issues, the same barriers in front of us. If you're a child, you're having a hard time in school. That's because you grew up speaking Pashto, you grew up speaking Dari, you grew up speaking Russian, Spanish. So when you go to school, your primary language is your mother tongue language, right? So you're brought up in a house where you're talking mainly in Pashto or Dari. But when you go to school, you have a harder time communicating with others, and that causes stress to the child. That causes frustration to the child. Other kids start making fun of you, and those are things that we see and children experience on a day-to-day basis. Same thing with a teenager. As they get older, they want more independency. Parents are afraid of giving them independency, right? Parents don't really push their kids to go and take do high risk activities, or sending them out to join clubs, in terms of not like clubs. I'm talking about reading clubs, marathons, after school programs, those kind of clubs. So for that, a lot of teenagers become, they kind of have a conflict of interest where they feel like the parents don't understand them, and then the parents say, our child don't understand us. Well, it's pretty much normal, and reason why I say that is that I've actually been doing a little bit of study myself, is that I've been talking to a lot of parents, and then I've been talking to a lot of children, and majority youth, kids from 15 to ages 22. What I came to understand is that there's a big generational gap. So there's a missing gap between the parents and their children. So again, I had specifically talked about, the culture, the Afghan culture, and how our parents are brought up from, a collectivistic culture where they grow up in a society where you yourself, your parent, has sacrificed to make others happy. They made their parents happy, they made their friends happy, they made the community happy. In return, the community would then praise that individual, right? Then you would feel better. That's how they were raised. It's a system, biologically, psychologically, they were wired that way. They were taught to be raised that way. So a lot of kids growing up here in America, they grow up in a very individualistic society. So in this society, you're taught to do things that are best for you. Do things that make you happy. Put your own interests first. Put your own needs first before anybody else's. It either be your sibling, it either be your parents, or either be your teachers, so on and so on. Even your own kids. That's how the community and the society is brought up here. So that causes a big factor in both the parents and the child's life, where there has been something that I call as a generational gap, and I call myself kind of the sandwich in the middle, because sometimes I hear my parents talk, and they give, they say good stuff they go to myself and my younger siblings, and I sometimes see my younger siblings not really understand what they're saying, or sometimes when my brother and sisters, they'll say something to my parents don't understand it. And to me, what's funny is that, actually, to be very honest with you, because I came to the US when I was roughly 10, so I've lived a little bit of my life back in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and then I came to here in America, and I've been here for about starting my 19th year. So what I came to understand is that they're both right. It's sad to say, but they're both right. The parent isn't wrong and the child isn't wrong. It's just that two folks don't see eye to eye. So with that, a lot of parents get frustrated. A lot of the youth are frustrated. So that's where it causes a barrier where we tell them to come ahead and we can have a family session to make sure that the families are actually actually being able to understand one another. Then that's part of our work, that we try to help educate and help the families see both sides. As you get older, again, the community, people have challenges. As you get older, you have challenges, for instance, finances. You have a hard time paying your mortgage, your rent, your car payment, your insurance, health insurance, your car insurance. Some of you might have pets, your pet's insurance. There's a lot of things that go on to talk about, but these are actual factual situations and scenarios that take place in our community, and that's what I've come to an understanding. Even when we put the video together, inshallah, I'll play it with you guys once it gets approved by the Orange County Healthcare Agency. It's something that I've worked on with my agency and other agencies, and you'll come to an understanding that every single one of us go through the same situation. Same challenges, same barriers, same frustration, same form of stress. And these are normal things, brothers and sisters. So remember, we live in a community that becomes very stressful and very hard to acculturate yourself in. But again, we want to be able to make sure that those that have been raised here, those have lived half their life here and then half back home. The way the human society and human community is that we all learn from each other. No one in this world is really perfect to say. Every single one of us have to learn from one another. If you're a doctor, we learn from doctors and they learn from others. If you're an attorney, we learn from attorneys, they learn from others. If you are the head imam, we learn from them, they learn from us. If you're a professional therapist, we learn from them, they teach us. So teachers, everyone, every single one of us, our parents, our grandparents, our siblings, our children. Don't forget that children are very important, and they know a lot too. And you'll be very surprised the amount of things that children are actually learning nowadays. I don't think a lot of parents knew that when they were their age. So please remember and be mindful that you give your child a chance to speak and talk, and speak their mind. And I think it's very important to do that because it's important to acknowledge the fact that there's a human being that wants to express their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, so we can even help that child push forward in life, and to kind of support them in knowing, well, where is their stance in the community? Can they do good? Can they not? Where do they need help at? So those are the things that we have to look into, because we want to be able to look at our youth, and we want to be able to look at their potentials. If they have potentials, we want to be able to support them. If we don't support them, then again, again, like we say, our ummah, our youth is our ummah, and we need to be able to help push our youngsters and the younger generation, because we're all gonna, essentially take over in terms of, when every single one of us really, come to an old age, or it's once we start past getting deceased. So for that, I do want to go ahead and discuss certain, more important factors in talks as well. As you guys know, an incident took place not too long ago, this past Sunday. It was, suicide bombings that had taken place in Sri Lanka. Again, may Allah forgive and forgive those that lost their lives, and punish those that caused, such, hate crime. No one should die this way. But again, there are people out in the world who are planning, bad ideologies, bad notions. A lot of people usually would think that, there is a segregation between religions. There's, people want to separate religions, but then you come to an understanding in today's world, and knowing that not too long ago there was a shooting at the at two mosques in New Zealand, and then and now you have a bomb explosion in Sri Lanka, which was very sad to see what had happened. And you come to an understanding, you come to know that, at the end of the day, no matter if they're Muslim, non-Muslim, they're human beings. We have to acknowledge that fact. As Muslims, I want to be able to tell everybody to, to please go ahead and give your prayers to the victims, show your support. Again, when the incident took place in New Zealand, you saw the world turn their gratitude and their regards to the victims of New Zealand, to all the Muslims. Same thing with our community, with the Muslim community. We want to be able to show that compassion, that love to those that have lost their lives in those churches. It was just a day that it was it was an Easter day. It was a day where a lot of family members did go to church, because it was one of their special days, and that's where even news had reported that this had been an intelligence, the intelligence agency, and then some certain Muslim leaders had talked about this years ago, that there is a plan of, there's a planning going on, which I guess the authorities in Sri Lanka didn't really take seriously. So for that, this also took place, unfortunately. But before we go further, I'd like to share with you guys this video, and then when we come back, we'll go ahead and discuss some more on this.
Bombings. The president of Sri Lanka asked his defense secretary and national police chief to step down today. They're accused of failing to act on intelligence reports before a wave of attacks killed at least 359 people, including 4 Americans. Elizabeth Palmer is there.
New security camera video shows 2 bombers in the Shangri-La Hotel elevator. They get out, and moments later, the blast. One of them was Mulavi Zahran, in the middle in these images released by ISIS. And behind the scarves, 2 bombers who were brothers, wealthy and well-educated local men, and one of the brothers' wives. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo told CBS's Mike Morrell the terrorists probably had outside help.
I will say that every indication is that this was at the very least inspired by ISIS.
The fact that the attack happened at all is a growing scandal here.
Muslim community leaders are both frustrated and furious because they say they pointed the Sri Lankan security forces towards specific extremist threats years ago.
But the security forces did nothing, and now mosques here are closed and under armed guard. Hilmi Ahmed is Vice President of the Muslim Council of Sri Lanka.
We are fearing a backlash.
You were afraid last night that you might be attacked.
Yes, of course.
In fact, Muslims are as shocked and saddened as everybody else on this island, still grappling with the scale of a massacre. Elizabeth Palmer, CBS News, Colombo.
Welcome back, dear brothers and sisters. As you guys saw the video, just wanted to show you guys a little bit of glimpse of what had happened. Again, it was a tragic event that took place in Sri Lanka. There was a couple of incidents that did take place throughout the country. And again, just our prayers go to the families because it's a day and it's a moment that wouldn't be forgotten, and it shouldn't be forgotten. We have to remember that as human beings, we have to come to an understanding and knowing that these are planned attacks. These are not events that just take place out of nowhere. These plans take, it takes time. It takes seconds, minutes, years to be planned out, and then somebody to go ahead and execute these situations. And then, as you saw in this video, that even they had mentioned that this was planned out. When the New Zealand shooting took place in the mosque, that was planned out. A lot of these things have been planned out and nothing is being said. Again, it's something that I think we all need to look into. We all need to come in understanding and work with one another as human beings and tell each other that there is a lot of hate out there, but how can it be stopped? How can we be able to be more proactive when it comes to working together? I think even for other faith communities and faith groups, it's very important to know that these kind of challenges and incidents will not stop. It will continue to grow, but that doesn't mean that even our unity should stop there. It should grow. It should be much stronger. There should be a statement made by the Interfaith Council or the group where you have Christians, Buddhists, you have Muslims coming together, working together, and showing others who are causing these challenges and difficulties and murders and killings, to let them know that that we are still united. People are united at the end of the day, and stuff like this will not just pass on and will go through. But then again, in all of reality, in fact, there's so many things that go on a daily basis. There are certain things we can control and there's certain things that we cannot control. I think this is one of the incidents that is out of the hands of the people, and the best thing that can be done is to be able to pray, to come together and show our respect to those that have passed away, and to teach our children, our kids, that hate is not the way to solving situations or answering problems. It just causes more problems. It causes more hate. That's why it's always open to be able to learn different religions, different cultures, different ideas, and just learn from them. Every single person is different. There are people who are Muslims. We have different school of thoughts, different way of praying, different way of practicing the religion. That doesn't mean we're different, very different. No, we have different practices. But at the end of the day, again, brothers and sisters, let's give our condolences and make sure that for those that are in Sri Lanka, to show more support. For those around the world, to send their messages to the victims and their families, and to show the Sri Lankan government that the Muslim community is there to support and is there to help the individuals, families, and the community, because this is something that is a big no from any person, any human being that wants to do good in this earth. And then you have people on this planet Earth that don't want to do good. They want to cause harm. They want to kill people, which is unfortunate. But that's the ideology that they're brought up from, and you cannot change those ideologies. And even for us, we have to be able to understand those ideologies. And then this is why sometimes there's war between two countries, is because then two people, if somebody has that specific ideology, others will develop that ideology and then go forward with it, and then that causes more problems and then more problems, and it's a never-ending cycle of, again, death, power, control. So it's the same form of, it's like being an abuser. That's what it is. So dear brothers and sisters, not to change our topic, for what I will discuss about, one of the important things is that I've been doing, giving a little bit of talks in the community regarding, what is it that a lot of family members are facing, and what are some of the challenges that a lot of families are seeing. I have come to an understanding by asking families, the children, the youth, the parents, the grandparents. There are a couple of things that in the community that there's been a lot of challenges. Starting off with the youth, a lot of youth are feeling bullied. A lot of youth are feeling trapped. A lot of youth are not able to express their thoughts, their feelings. A lot of parents do not allow their kids to go seek help, which is unfortunate. I think parents are making a big mistake on this, on their end, for not allowing their kids to be seen by a therapist. So what I've come to realize is that there are certain families, majority of parents, what they're afraid of is that, so this is the thing, there's two things. First, they'll see that their kid is in need of services, they need help. The kid approaches the parent. Number one thing, the parent says, well, no, you can't go to therapy. Why not? Well, because the parent, what ends up happening is that they fear that the child's going to spill the family secret, the family, maybe the family abuse, the family talks of what goes on, because again, parents, you have to remember, our community is a collectivistic community. They think in a way where you do not talk to others about family matters, but where we actually tend to forget and neglect is that there are laws in the United States, there are circumstances. So when a person comes to seek professional help, there is something called confidentiality. There's a consent form that needs to be filled out. When that happens, that child or that person, individual, with seeing a professional, anything that is done, or any agreement that's taking place between the two, any talks that are going back and forth between the two, stays between the two. It does not get spread, especially not from the professional side, because if the professional individual talks and says something that is leaked into the community, that person can lose their license, that organization can get shut down, that person can get sued. So for that, a lot of families don't understand that. So I have to first and foremost always let the families know that it's okay. When you come and seek therapy, it's one of the safest places for you to be, one of the best places for you to come and talk to somebody, because there's people that don't really talk to anybody throughout the day. So it's kind of good to have an outlet of, a place where you can go and express and discuss what you did today, what had happened, because sadly as it is, it's very sad. And I think some of the parents could agree on this, is when your child comes from home, things that you ask them are, how was school? Was it good? What did you do? Very briefly, okay, good. That's it. When the youth or the child wants to talk to their parents, what ends up happening is that the parents actually pushes them to the side, or if it's a child, it gives them the iPad, the iPhone, go use the computer, leave me alone. Those are not good parenting skills. So please try to do your best to not do that. But one of the challenges that we came also with the kids or the youth are that the parents don't interact with their children. And when they do, they don't come to understand the way their children think. Again, parents, your children think, and they're gonna think very differently. You have to remember, this is not back, Afghanistan. This is not back Pakistan. Thinking is going to be very different. I'm not saying thinking is going to be non-Islamic. It's still going to be Islamic way of thinking, but some of the ways they think, it's different in terms of individualistic ideas and notions. So I know back home, you did not talk to your parents regarding a matter. Let's say somebody bullied you, somebody said something to you. You would not go tell your parents, because what would happen is that your parents would say, well, why did this person do this? They would get frustrated and tell you, either they'll get frustrated at you, or they'll tell you to go ahead and then blame them or go abuse them. That's what happens. when children nowadays, when they come and they talk and they experience, talk about their feelings, parents do the same because that's how they were taught. And not just that, but I understand the fact that parents are not equipped to work with their children at best sometimes. So that's why we always say, let your child come to therapy. Number two is, again, youth are telling me that the parents do not understand them. There are a lot of challenges within the youth community. Kids are being bullied. Kids are going through severe depression. And then lastly, there's a lot of statistics behind children and youth suicides. There's a lot of kids and a lot of children that are taking away their lives. It's actually the second to third leading cause of death for kids ages 12 to 19. So when I speak today, I'm going to have a video where I went and I did a seminar at one of the mosques and I spoke to the youth. There was roughly over 45 youth that came, and I was doing an interactive seminar workshop with them talking about suicide. And it was actually, the seminar went really good. They were very talkative. They shared their ideas. They shared their thoughts. Excuse me. So they shared their thoughts. They shared their ideas. And I came to understand, and I usually, whenever I give talks, I always have the sisters always, and the females always talking more than the guys. The guys are either shy or they think they might say something wrong or somebody's going to laugh at them. But I get a lot of the sisters and the girls that do give their thoughts and their opinions and their forethought. So once I'm done with my talk, you're going to go ahead and see that video. I have a good hour of workshop that I conducted with them, and you'll come to understand how the children think. But I was talking about suicide prevention, bullying is, and then just even somebody that has a mental health challenge, not to run away from them, but to help them, to listen to them. It's a lot, but at the same time, be there for them, because you being there for them can help save a life or help save a person from harming themselves or harming somebody else. So these are very important factors. And then, so that's number one, is youth not understanding their parent and parent understanding their kids. That's what we call the generational gap that I had talked about earlier on, and why that happens. I think that's going to be a topic that I would want to discuss and talk about in the future, because I think it's very important for us to talk about. A lot of families, a lot of parents are having a hard time with their kids. A lot of kids are having a hard time understanding what their parents are saying. But when I hear both sides, no one is wrong. I be very honest with you. No one is wrong. They're both right. You guys are both right in your own way. I don't see anything wrong with how you guys think or how you guys do things. It's just how you guys were raised. That's the only two difference, and it's not your fault, because if you're raised a certain way, that is how you're gonna live your life. That's how you're gonna think. So a person cannot stop you from thinking that way, right? And that's our free will with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who actually gives us a way of thinking, way of doing things. Because again, at the end of the day, it is He who judges us. One of the other thing from that is just the youth and the struggle that they have with their identity. There has been a big challenge amongst the youth and having identity crisis, not understanding who they are, how they want to shape their lives, how they want to live their lives. There has been a lot of barriers and challenges as they get older, as they get, as they're raising, they're getting older and older day by day. A lot of parents are stopping them from creating this identity that which the parents are not favorable for, or they don't favor it. Parents are intimidated by it. Parents are challenged by it. Parents they don't have enough understanding to help understand their own children. And then a lot of the teenagers also are going through a lot of mix of emotions, scenarios, life experiences that causes them to be someone that is very different than their parents or their other siblings. So for that, we always try to tackle that challenge as well. So I know number one is the generational gap. Then you have identity crisis amongst the youth. Then you have among seniors is social isolation. A lot of our grandparents who come here, you have to come to know that as kids or as parents that are here, who migrate here, who are immigrants, or their kids who bring their parents here, it becomes very challenging for parents. The reason why that it becomes so challenging is that back home in Afghanistan, you would have one family live in one big household, right? And that was part of the culture. Everybody lived in one house. You would have kids running around. You would have families living in one place. Again, the culture, that's how the culture was created. It was also because of safety. The way the country was in war for over 40 years. Not a lot of people were letting the females out of the house. So for that, they were living in one joint house. And not just that, but lack of unemployment. Only the father, usually the father was working, but even their kids, when they were in their 30s and 40s, they didn't have a job. So there was a lot of issues in that, and that caused a lot of problems in that sense. And and when it came to people living in one house, but to say now, coming back to the seniors, is that because of that, a lot of families would live in one house. So as the parent got older, what ended up happening was you still had, for instance, the wife there, and then you had the kids who didn't go to work, because they didn't have work, or they went to work for a short period of time, or they would have the daughter-in-laws and the grandkids inside the house, right? Because they had nothing else to do. So they would stay there, and then the grandparents were very active. People were coming, people were talking to them, they were moving around, so it was very good for them. What I have come to realize here in America is that life is very challenging. Now I see parents living with their families, but what I have come to understand is that both husband and wife are not going to work. There's nobody at home. The children are out at work. No one's working. No one's at home. So the parents tend to stay home. When that happens, that causes a lot of social isolation amongst the two. Not just that, but when there's only one grandparent, it becomes even more difficult. And a lot of times, a lot of them get very depressed because they have nobody to talk to. They don't have, a driver license to go and drive anywhere. The kids, especially the kids, I highly encourage the kids to actually get your parents and be involved in mosques, be involved at community centers, so they can go and actually talk to other people. Please don't keep them inside the house, because you're not doing them just, you're actually causing their brain to deteriorate. So what ends up happening with parents is that what I've come to realize is once they hit over 60 to 65, they tend to forget things. They tend to say things that don't make sense, and that causes more attention for the parent. So for that, I actually urge a lot of the youngsters and a lot of those that are that have parents to please keep them active. What you're trying to do is you're trying to keep them it's like you're trying to keep them mobilized. You're making sure that they are progressing. If not, they're staying steady in both physical and psychological point of their psychological sphere. What's happening is that when you tend to stay home, you're isolated. You're not talking to anybody. You're not moving, so you're sitting still. You're stiff. Number one, your body's not moving. Number two, your brain's not, fueling any. There's no fuel being released or being any of your brain cells are being used properly because you're sitting at home. But if you are going out to the masjid, your parents are involved in the masjid, parents are in a community center with other seniors for the day. Again, don't get me wrong. I know there's sometimes people, they mix up nursing home versus community center, daycare center. Daycare center is where where an adult or anybody who has, where stroke survivors, folks who have dementia and Alzheimer's, who need special attention to take care of them during the day when their kids are out of the house, so they can talk and interact with other people. And what that does is that there's a test that takes place to make sure that they're moving physically, that their body doesn't hurt, and they can move themselves, right? So the child, or you as the child, as you have your parents at home, when they get older, you'll see them deteriorate, then you have to lift them, you have to pick them up. It causes a problem because it's important to make sure that they're active. And then when they're around people, what ends up happening is that they're using they're talking to folks, they're using a lot of their brain activity is showing a lot of increase in brain activity. The parents are now doing things that are good for their mind. They're thinking. There's more blood flow, so that causes something that's a good chain reaction to their brain. They're causing dopamine, endorphins are being released. So remember, those are important things. So please remember that, and I'm saying that because of science. It's not because of the fact that I'm just saying this. This is something that would help you, so you guys don't suffer in the long term. So remember that it makes it easier for you and your parents, and it makes the home environment much happier, healthier, and there's less stress for the family. Just to give that. Number 4, brothers and sisters. Then lastly is the scenario of premarital counseling. A lot of times what has happened is that I also get a lot of couples who've been married for years now, let's say, and these aren't couples that are married for like 4, 5, 10 years. These are couples that are married for 20, 30 years. They come to therapy today. They come to therapy. Do you know why they come to therapy? It's the fact that marriage is not working out for them. They've been married for so long. They're trying to make, so what has happened is that in these marriages is that I come to an understanding that, number one, they never chose their partner. That, culturally, usually the parents and family, they would set up 2 people and they'd go ahead. And then you have those who actually do pick their partners, and they get married in a very young age, in a very early age, and it causes a lot of problems. For that, I always encourage families to make sure that whenever, no matter how old you are, either you're 20, 25, 30, 35, 55, 60, 70, if you're getting married at that age, do premarital counseling. So what has happened is that people, they're so much involved in in a stage of emotions. Their emotions are so high, in their they're in a lust scenario where they have this favoritism. They have this emotions that overtake their judgment call. So when I see a lot of clients or couples that come to me and say, my husband used to be so loving to me, or my wife used to be so loving to me, now the love level gone down. Number one, the love was never there. Just to answer your question, brothers and sisters, you have to understand that the emotions were high. Over time, emotions come down. Emotions, they fall down because now you see the person every day, you get to live with them, you get to see their actual nature. You'll love some of their features, some of their features you'll hate. So when you first meet them, again, your lust level and your emotion being invested in it, it's very high. It's your emotions that causes you to feel good when you see this person. And over time, it decreases. Love was never high. Love was always down here. Over time, love takes years. And then little by little, it goes up and up. And it doesn't go by, oh, I see you and I'm in love with you. That doesn't work like that, guys. It works based off of years of living together, building a foundation together, getting to know one another, getting to build that strong structure for one another, how to work as a team with one another. Again, it takes a long time. It takes years and years and years. So you have to remember, love always starts very low. There's no love in the beginning. Again, it's the emotions and your lust levels that are very high that overtakes your way of thinking, and you think that's love, and over time it decreases. No, love never decreases, guys. There was never love there. Love starts from here, and then little by little, gradually over the years, it builds. It builds based on foundation. It builds based off of how much work you guys put into dedicating time for each other, making time for each other, doing things together. And again, number one is for each other. So remember, it becomes very challenging when you guys have kids the first year. You guys don't even know who you are in the first year, and you guys, I've seen a lot of family members, couples getting married and they have a kid right after a year. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. You don't even know each other yet, and that causes a lot of problems. And the reason why that happens is that when you get married, you don't even know each other fully. So it takes a while till you get to know each other. told one another person actually gets to understand when it, two people comes to understand each other. And it takes, research has shown as well, it takes about 3 to 5 years for two couples to actually kind of mix and match, and come to realize, and come to an understanding of how to read themselves, how to read their minds, and kind of assimilate on some of the stuff together, right? To kind of start creating that foundation. So when you get married, and you're having a problem, or you don't even know you have a problem, when you have a child, what ends up happening is that you guys don't end up working on your own selves. You actually then do everything that's best for the child. So what ends up happening here is that a lot of people, or there's couples that are very unhappy in their marriages because all their focus is on the child. They're trying to do what they can for the child. And even when they have a child, one of the hardest issues and hardest challenge for them is that, well, how are we going to raise our kid? Are we going to send him to Islamic school? Are we going to send him to public school? Are we sending him to a private school? I want them to teach, I want to teach them Pashto, I want to teach them Farsi, I want to teach them English. How do we want to dress our kids? That's another issue, right? Some folks want to cover their kids. Some kids, some folks, they say, well, no, my kids, I want them to wear, whatever I wore when I was younger. So these are challenges. What food do you guys want to give them? How do you guys want to raise your child? So now there's also another battle there. So you have your own battle, which you never knew of. And now you have battle of the child, your child. So that's where it becomes it's a big mess situation where it becomes very problematic, and that happens with everything. So when a couple gets married, it's very important to do premarital counseling, right? Because also one of the other issues after that has been in-laws in general. Who's gonna, if the person's gonna live with their in-laws or not, and that has also become one of the challenges factors in breaking up marriages, is that when the guy and the girl gets married, they're expected to live sometimes with the in-laws, and it doesn't happen, and they break it off. So that also needs to be talked about. For instance, when you do premarital counseling, what has happened is, what we do now is that we bring the couples together, and we talk about, okay, so what is it that the guy wants in their marriage? Do you want a wife? How do you want her? Some guys will say, I want a wife who can work with me and make money. Great, make money. There's wives that say, okay, I'll make money, and great, let's do that. And how many kids do you guys want? Do you guys want to live with in-laws or not? How close do you guys want to live with family members? If anybody's sick in the family, who will take care of them? There's times where two couples, they'll get married and they have financial challenges where they don't, even financially, they don't mix the banks. Islamically, it is the guy's duty to support the family, the whole family, and that includes the wife and the children. And when it comes to, and then if they, and then also if they have money, as their parents, his parents, and you can help the parent of your wife. But the wife, whatever she makes is her money, so she can help support the family, right? So, but we know that we live in a community, in a society where it's very challenging, right? For a guy to go out and work, it becomes very difficult. So for that, you'll see two people working, right? So they're trying to combine their finances, because as we know, it's not very cheap to live in America, let alone when somebody's living in Orange County, for Orange County or certain places, now you're seeing a lot of, those challenges where some couples would say, I will pay for this, I'll pay for the bills, you pay for the food, I'll pay for this. They're not on the same page. Education, once we get married, is the girl gonna be so allowed to, educate herself and finish school, or do you guys just want to start a family and having kids? These are important factors that you have to consider. For a guy, when they get married, they want a couple of years to themselves to make sure they create a career, and establish themselves before doing anything, right? And even having kids, or just going out to family events. Those are important things to talk about. But again, the way the community is, the way our community is set up, is that everybody gets so excited in the hype of marriage that they tend to forget, and they tend to lose the sight of what's important to the people, especially for the two youngsters. Even to them, like I mentioned earlier, you are all bubbly and all happy because again your emotions take your cognition over your cognition. So it's very important that you make rational decisions before you get into it. So for that we always do that. And then if there's families involved, we also bring in families. We say come bring the families, because the families need to come to understand that it's the two kids or the two couples that get married. Let's listen to them first before what demands the families have, because there has been a lot of pressures from the family, where we get a lot of families in counseling services dictating or even destroying the marriages of their kids. And it's the fact of the matter. There's parents who take their get their kids married and not knowing who the girl is, and that has happened. I've had a client not too long ago who is in his 30s, never seen the girl and got married. The parents got him married and nothing worked out and everything finished. He didn't have the right to say anything. Basically feeling like, well, his life, he didn't have control over his life. So again, these are sensitive topics, and these are sensitive discussions that we need to have, brothers and sisters. To say anything further, again, I think I'm going to keep it at that. I have a lot to talk about. I want to be able to discuss these matters very well and very good, and very openly with everyone, because these are important matters that a lot of us are going through, and I think we should all as adults need to understand, because again, you guys have kids, you guys went through the same challenges, scenarios, and we have to remember identity crisis is one with the youth. You have generational gap, you have social isolation, you have premarital counseling, which is very important for families. And these are probably one of the four top challenges that I've seen within the Muslim, and not just the Muslim, but the Afghan community at large. So please stay tuned as I will go ahead and discuss more and more of these topics with you guys. But to say, just for today, that is it with me. Please stay tuned as I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys a video after the break. I'm gonna show you guys a video of mine that I've had a seminar and a workshop with a lot of our youth in a masjid at Inland Empire, which I had. And please enjoy it. If you have any questions, please do ask me, and I'll be more than happy to answer it in the following weeks. And that is it for me. So please stay tuned. Watch after this break. Watch my next episode is going to be my training that I do with the community. So please stay tuned and don't leave. Okay. But for me, that's it, going live, but you guys can watch my video after this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Believe it or not, actually, I did shopping just last night, and one avocado I had to pay $2.10, and that was. The prices have gone up. So, thank you for sharing that. But again, I'm actually glad to hear that you guys are, talking about current events and current news that's going on in the world. That's actually very good for our community. So before we get started as well, can I get a volunteer to help me out though with this presentation? Yeah. Okay, I got you. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is, come on in. Thank you so much. So you're gonna be, come on. So you're gonna be, Salam Suzy. So you're gonna take a seat right here. So as I go through my presentation, and I'll ask you to just kind of, just click, make it right, click on it. Okay? So every time I say, just click. All right. Alrighty, everyone. So let's get started. My name is Wali Abdul Hanifzai, and I work for a nonprofit organization called Access California Services. Before we get started, do you guys know why you guys are here today? No? What? You don't know what you're here for? Yeah. To learn about mental health and suicide prevention. So today, you guys are actually here to learn about suicide prevention. And then as I go further, we're gonna have an interactive session, and that's where I want to hear more from you guys. All right. So again, let's get started. So thank you. So let's talk about the history of Didi Hirsch. So I'm gonna give you guys a little history of Didi Hirsch because I myself work with Didi Hirsch. It's an organization that was founded in 1942. They have 11 sites in Southern California, and then there's one site in Orange County. And I work in Orange County, and the site that's there is in Santa Ana, okay? And we serve roughly about 100,000 people yearly, folks that come to us. Again, it was the first suicide prevention hotline in all of America. It was the first one ever built. We usually get about roughly 80,000 calls that we get a year. There's various language capacity built in it. So if you're Arabic speaking, you can call in, and there's somebody there with Arabic speaking translation services for anybody who speaks Urdu, anybody who speaks Farsi, Pashto. It's all accommodated. And then anybody who's hard and deaf of hearing, there's a text component to it. So you can always encourage others who for instance, if you don't want to talk to anyone, you can always text, all right, to make the process much easier. And we have chat services as well. And then again, staff members are highly trained. So again, with Didi Hirsch, the way we work is that we have a one-on-one services session where we go ahead and we provide a one-on-one therapy sessions. Anybody who ever have thoughts of suicide, anyone who actually wants to go ahead and commit suicide, we actually bring them in. I myself or some of my staff members who have been trained in suicide prevention, we talk to the individual and to see what they're feeling, what their thoughts are like. Sometimes your thoughts, it gets very negative. You get negative thoughts. You go to dark moments in your life, or sometimes your thoughts just lead you to suicidal paths, right? So for that, we talk to those individuals to make sure how can we better redirect your thoughts into something that's positively done. And then the second thing that we have is when you have a loss of a family member. So if you ever lose somebody in your household, can somebody tell me, is that something that's easily digestible or not? It's not, right? Why is that? And what can happen? Let's say, God forbid, if somebody in my family passed away today, and let's say take 2 weeks from now, a month from now, a year from now, I'm still having a hard time coping. So what might be some of the challenges that I go through on a daily basis? Yes? There's stages of denial. I'm still in my mindset. I'm still thinking that this person has not passed away. Yes?
Well, I feel like one thing that's really common is you won't really process it right when it happens, or some people it'll really start to hit a while after, even a year after it actually happens, which makes it even harder to cope with because other people have almost already moved on from it. So you kind of have to hold it in, it's difficult to grieve and cope with.
It is. So did you guys hear what she said? So she said that some folks, some individuals, they have a hard time coping. So it even takes a year for them to cope with the loss of their family members. And for some people, it's very easy, right? So when that happens, do you guys know why that happens or no? Why is it that a person really has a hard time coping with the loss of the family or loved ones?
Maybe they might feel guilt for not being there for them.
So yeah, so when they feel guilty, that's part of grief and loss. Do you guys know what else there is? When somebody dies, what are certain things that go through your head? An individual, when somebody passes away, there are certain things that go through an individual's head at that time. Yes. Well, grief and when it comes to grief and loss and denial, that's one. So yeah, you pass memories, but so they distract you from doing day-to-day tasks. So that does hurt. Again, you have anger. And who do you have anger towards? You have anger towards yourself. Who else do you have anger towards? Huh? How they died. I wish I was there. What else? The person who died? Yeah, sometimes that happens. And what was that? How can you stop it? We're going to go through that. And then other things that ends up happening is that we also bargain. Do we know who we bargain with? We bargain with God. We bargain with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, telling ourselves that why couldn't I spend more time with the person that just passed away? So these are the stages that we go through. But we have a support group where when a family member has lost somebody, we actually get the family to come to us to therapy session, and then we have the whole family sit down and talk about their feelings, emotions, and thoughts. Because when something like this takes place, you can see that an adult is coping well, but the child is not. But the child really needs to see the parent be able to also have the same feelings and emotions so they can understand the idea. And then thirdly and finally, it's what you guys are doing today is the outreach and engagement. What we call is prevention, early intervention. And for that, we come out and we help train the community and understanding the statistics, signs and symptoms of suicidality and what suicide looks like, and then how can you guys help an individual, a family member, a community member, or even yourselves if you guys come across it, okay? Can we go to the next slide? Alrighty, so what do you guys see here? Can you guys see? What was it? It's an iceberg, right? So what can you tell me about the iceberg? So it's a lot deeper and you can't see more of it that's underneath the water. I had a hand raised there. What was it? It's floating? Yeah, of course. What else? It caused the Titanic to sink. There you go. So the idea here is that this is an analogy that I use is that, just like the sister had said, if you look at the iceberg, if we take a look at it, from a real life perspective, if you look at this in real life, it's usually a big iceberg. But what's underneath it? Do you see what's underneath it? The core base that actually holds it, it's even bigger. It's like 2 to 3 times even bigger. And now let's talk about human beings. When you first meet somebody in life, how much do you know about them? Surface level, right? Very little. How much do you actually go ahead and talk to? I mean, just people on a day-to-day basis, right? When you meet them, unless they're your best friends, you probably go ahead and talk to them more. But if they're not, how much do we know about a person? Just amongst each other, 5 to 10%. Thank you. Yeah, or 2%. But that's. Now use the same analogy. How do we know that an individual is going through a hardship? They're going through difficult times in their life, challenges. Even here in school, somebody might be getting bullied. Somebody's probably having a hard time coming here, facing identity crisis. Going home, somebody's having a generational gap where your parents don't understand you, or you don't have any you don't understand your own parents. Does that happen, or does that not happen? That happens? Yeah.
I was just going to add to, you could also know, exactly what's going on with someone and still not know, how it's affecting them because, different people react differently to different things. So we could see, someone being treated some type of way, but we don't really take anything of it or, realize that they're being affected by it because we wouldn't be as affected.
Definitely.
So it makes us kind of insensitive sometimes.
It definitely does. It definitely does. And thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing it. And to go further, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys more about statistics of suicide prevention and suicidality. Did you guys know that there's 9.8 million people who actually have suicide thoughts yearly in Southern California? People that constantly have thoughts of suicide, that want to kill themselves. And then out of those, there's 1.3 million people who actually attempt. That means that they have a plan set in place where they take away their life. They try to take away their life. It either be various methods that they use. And then there's roughly 45% of those that actually go ahead and complete suicide. So just to give you guys the numbers, do you guys think that the numbers tell the full story or no? It doesn't, right? And why is that? Yeah. Those are the only people that actually told their stories, right? And what about the stories that we don't know of? What if, the ones that are facing hard challenges or difficulties where we haven't captured their information, undetected information, unreported ones. So again, it's the 10th leading cause of death here in the United States. Most lethal means is a firearm that has been used. Not just that, but 59% of people who have died by suicide, death has died in the first attempt. Again, anybody can be at risk of it. And now I want to ask you guys something, just generally speaking. There's more females who actually try committing suicide. More females compared to men, okay? There's more females in numbers, they try to commit suicide more than men. But the results show, and research shows, that there's more men who are actually completing their suicide. Why is that? Huh? Who's overthinking it? The women overthink it? Okay, so you're telling us that men, we can't think? That's the answer?
Maybe men are more impulsive.
Men are more impulsive? Thank you. You said, women, yes. And with today's social media, the way everything is built is that, yes, there's a lot of high expectation amongst women, right? It is amongst females that you're supposed to look a certain way. You're supposed to look, you got to have, makeup on, on social media, social posts, compared to men. How about yourself? I know you had your hand raised. That's the question? Okay. What else, guys? So what's going on? Why is it that we're more successful in killing ourselves? What's going on? They play. Okay, so I can be with the guys. We play violent games. Is that true? What does that have to do with killing each other? I know there's females who actually play. They're MMA fighters. They play violent games. So what's going on? Huh? They play video games. What else? Okay, so men are more capable of continuing. So I think I had one there, and I'm going to ask you this, and I'll answer the question. Yes. Guys, if you guys have questions, let's hear everybody else. Okay. Good.
I was just gonna say it could also be kind of like almost like a pride thing in a weird way, where it's like they tried something and like they didn't want to like fail at it.
Okay.
Like it's like they carried it out.
So to answer you guys' question, it's basically the use of how you guys end your life. That's what it is. So when it comes to females, majority of times this is what happens. They tend to take their lives away by cutting themselves or by taking medication with overdose. Okay? For men and us guys, what ends up happening is that we use things like firearm and we hang ourselves. So by the time help is arrived, the likelihood and the chance of who has a better chance of surviving? The women has a better chance of surviving. It's just that the men, they use more of an aggressive form of lethal means. That's the difference. Okay? So now let's talk about youth statistics, guys. This is something that I want you guys to hear and learn about. And maybe these are certain things that you guys can share with me as well. There's roughly 436 people ages 10 to 14 who die by suicide yearly. And then there's 2,000 people ages 15 to 19 who die committing suicide. And then 3,500 people who actually die at ages 20 to 26. One young person dies every 1 hour and 32 minutes who actually commit suicide and try to kill themselves. As the third leading cause of death for anybody who's 10 and 14 years old. The third. Know that, it's the third. And not just that, but the second leading cause of death amongst those that are 15 to 24. So now what's going on? I want to be able to ask you guys this question. What's taking place here? And raise your hand, please, if you have any questions. And let me get you a few.
That stage of your life, you tend to be more emotionally vulnerable and more impulsive.
So you're more impulsive with your actions. Again, there's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of changes in life, right? At that stage of time. This is Southern California. This is Southern California with us. Yeah, this is Southern California. On a yearly basis, nationwide, there's roughly 1 million people who actually kill themselves. 1 million. Remember I said 55,000 people in Southern California kill themselves? There's roughly 1 million people who actually complete suicide on a yearly basis throughout the United States. So any statistics that I go through right now, this is here in Southern California amongst us. So we're all included. Everybody's included. What else? What's going on? What's taking place here? Why are the rates so high? You said pressure? Yes? Peer pressure? Of what? Your life is changing, and then you have the generational gap where it becomes challenging for you to understand, or for somebody like your family to understand you. And what about the changes? What's going on with changes? Yeah. Repeat that, I'm sorry, one more time. I think there's somebody talking. Yeah. Academically as well. And then where's the pressure coming from? Yourself, you have a lot of society puts a lot of pressure. Everything, right? Everyone. So you have the pressure of society. What else?
I was just gonna add also like that age group right now, like all those in that
Guys.
age group are the ones that kind of have grown up more with like the like social media and like all like the technology and stuff. So I feel like those are the main like people or like ages that like we like are always comparing ourselves because like we see like everybody else's life and
Yeah.
like where everyone else gets like accepted to college or what everyone else's career is, and you see like the perfect parts of everyone's life.
Uh-huh.
And obviously, like, we like every part of our own life. So,
Yeah.
like, when you compare yourself, and like, it's like, I don't know, like that just.
It's true, and that is very much true. But do you guys know that anybody who posts on social media usually, it's not, there exists, actual factual life that, they show that they're happy at that moment, but that their life is not like that? Do you guys know that? And then one of the other things with social media, what I've learned with the younger generation is that there's a high expectation of how we want to look and how we need to present ourselves, right? When it comes to what? Social media and posts. And again, I've used this earlier on and priorly too. Don't ever make expectations, or whenever you see somebody on Facebook or Instagram, just to tell you the truth, it's a real person who's actually taken care of by like 6, 7 crew members in their team. One person is doing the makeup. It's either a guy or a girl, whoever it is. Guys, they put on makeup for him. They make sure that they're well equipped. They have a dresser. So there's a lot of people that are trying to make this one individual be the perfect person. But in reality, can they do that by themselves? They can't. It's a lot of pressure. So so you have to take that into consideration, that whatever you see on social media, it's also not true, and it's also very damaging. Now let's talk about survivor loss statistics. Research shows that during our lifetime, there's 64% of us who will know somebody who has died by suicide. Has any of you guys come across anybody, or did you guys know anyone who has attempted suicide before? By show of hands? Good. Okay, good. A lot of. Wait. Okay. What about you guys? Why are you guys' hands all down? Okay, now it's coming up. Do you guys? Okay. So even here, I can share something personally about myself and my family member. I had a cousin who recently, not too long ago, he had shot himself 3 to 4 times. And the reason why he did that is that there was a lot of pressure coming from the community and society, because the parents were having a hard time, in terms of relationship issues. The father wasn't really involved in their relationship, so he would come here and there, and then he would physically abuse the mother and the children. And for that, he didn't get the community's help. So what ended up happening for him was that he said, it's better to, kill myself and be away from all the pains in life that he's facing by ending his life. So that's what he did. He attempted suicide. He shot himself 3, 4 times, but alhamdulillah, he did survive. And this happened about 3 years ago, which is still recent, 3 years ago. But now, he just last year he got married, and now he's having a child. He's having a child. So does anybody else want to share any stories that they have had or they know of anyone that has attempted suicide before? No? You don't have to. So now let's talk more. There's 48% of us who will personally know someone who has died by suicide, and 20% of us will identify as survivors of loss of suicide. So can we go to the next one, please? Thank you. So what do you guys see here? Huh? It's a stick figure, right? He's a happy guy. We're all happy folks. Can we? So what do you? This one. Yeah. So what do you look forward to, guys? On a day-to-day basis, what do you guys look forward to? Success. Eating. Yes, eating. Huh? Guys, what do you guys look forward to on a daily basis? What do you guys? Being healthy. Seeing family. Family is important, right, to us? Relationships are important to us. What else is important to us? Friends are important to us, right? Parents are important to us. Now let's move back. You said poverty. Oh, our deen. Okay, good. And if we go, and then what stresses you out now? School. Okay, school stresses you out. Huh? Parents. Relationships, siblings. So these things, there's a lot of things that stresses out, right? Guys, let's stay focused. I know you guys want to chat more. We'll have a question and answer session as we get towards the end, all right? So just bear with me. So let's go to the next one. So what happens when everything piles up? You start crying, you break down. What else? You possibly depression. Thank you. Very good. Say something good. Yeah? Mental health issues? Yeah, definitely. You get overwhelmed, right? So now, social isolation. So now look at it. Things that we look forward to. Let's keep it. Work, school. Next one. Relationships. Friends. Family. You have finances. As you get older, you're gonna have, you're gonna start thinking about finances. Loss of a family member. That's a big loss when someone, when you lose somebody in your life. It's a very challenging and a very important time in your life. Identity crisis. I know a lot of us at this age, we're trying to form an identity for ourselves, aren't we? Are we trying to become someone at this point in time? We're trying to learn who we are. And again, I know we're hitting even puberty at this point of time. As we get, older, and as we get older, you have to remember, there's some of us, our bodies change, our emotions change, physically, emotionally. So you have to remember that these are important factors that take place. And sometimes it becomes challenging because some of us might not understand the process of it, and that's normal, and that's okay. What happened? So good. I'm glad you caught off. You caught to that. That was actually good. My other question was going to be, look, compared to the beginning when I asked you how the stick figure looked. He looked happy. As things pile up, things become very messy in your head, right? You start getting disturbed. You start getting a lot of challenges. You start having a lot of thoughts. And with that, if you can't solve a problem, what ends up happening? Everything stays in your head, right? It starts becoming fuzzy. It starts becoming, again, it becomes very difficult for you to problem solve. You feel like there's no solution to problems, day-to-day problems for you. So what ends up happening is that you hit a point where you start having mental health issues. And when you have mental health issues is that when you're in class and you can't concentrate. When you're in class and you start getting, when you get bad grades, that's because of bad concentration. You don't want to focus. You don't want to be in school. When you feel like you have no purpose of life, there's no purpose of life, that's because there's something going on in your own life that you don't look forward to. So these are the things that go forward. Okay. Let's go to the next one. So now let's talk about the tunnel hole. But before we do that, I want to ask you guys, what does depression look like, guys? What is it? Darkness? Yes. When somebody's depressed, what are some of the symptoms and signs? Social isolation. Self-harm. Being tired all the time. How about you guys? Let me have some of the boys. You guys are very quiet today. Anxiety. Yeah. Angry. What else? What else? Right there. Yeah. Disconnected from other people. Okay. Yeah. Loss of interest. Yeah.
Like not being genuine.
Not being genuine.
You're kind of like having to put on a front for people.
Yeah. You put on a different face. You lose appetite. Lazy. You get lazy. And those are all correct. Thank you for stating that. Those are all true. And don't forget, change in sleep patterns. Either you're sleeping too much or you're sleeping too little. As we talked about, poor concentration, feeling of worthlessness. Those are all factual reasons and challenges. So now let's talk about the tunnel, the brain tunnel. So I want to speak to you guys regarding, let's say there's a hole in the ground, right? And every single one of us are inside the hole. And what are the likelihood? Let's say there's a deep tunnel or deep hole underneath the ground. And what are the likelihood of us actually coming out of it? How many people do you think can actually get out of the tunnel? Huh? All of us? Not many. Generally, it's usually not many. Individually, though, we're talking about individually, not collectively. Individually, you're in a tunnel. You know, you're in a hole underneath the ground, and it's a long. Let's say it's a long hole underneath the ground, and the likelihood is not many of us are going to come out. So now let's say some of us that come out, okay, great, we came out of the tunnel, or we get some form of help. You know, somebody comes and helps us out. Let's say that you're in the tunnel, and then there's no help for you. What ends up happening when you keep trying? You know, as you look up and you're trying to climb up, you get up, but then you keep falling. What ends up happening? You get tired and tired and tired, right? What happens when you get tired? You give up, you lose energy, you lose hope. Okay, yeah, you lose hope. So when that does happen, what ends up happening when you lose hope? You stop trying. So what would happen to you in the tunnel when you're there, when you stop trying? You'll die, right? So now imagine a person who has suicidal thoughts. This is how they're feeling. They give up in real life. Even though that they're, you know, this is how their brain is. They're trapped in their own brain. That's what ends up happening. And they live with this every single day of their lives. They don't know how to come out of it. They're in a tunnel where they have no way of seeing light. You know, there's nobody else there to, you know, understand the pain that they're going through. And that's what ends up happening with that individual, where they rather kill themselves than to keep on trying and look for hope as well. Do you guys understand? Is that good? Okay. So, keep on. So now, let's talk about invitations. What do you guys see here? So let me tell you guys, this is actually real life story and real life drawings that that has been collected that I'm sharing with you guys today. And these stories and collections are collections of those that actually did go forward and commit suicide. This is actually a 16-year-old boy. It's actually a boy. He has long hair. Some guys have long hair. So he has a long hair. Guys. So what do you guys see here? A boy's looking through the window, right? Dark clouds. What else? He looks sad, right? Black and white. What else do you guys see? Yes, if you look at the picture, it's separating the boy from the gate. In the way, even if you look at him, he's trying to allow others to see that, you know, he's still seeable, he's visible, that he wants somebody to notice him. That's what this picture had showed. And as I go further and show you guys more pictures, this took place in the matter of 7 months before he killed himself. Okay. Now look at the warning signs. These are invitation signs, and this happened in school, which the teachers didn't catch. If we go to the next one. Same guy. What do you see here? You guys see? Huh? Wait, who said he's fixing a car? Alhamdulillah. What do you guys see? Guys. Get calm. Stay calm. Just raise your hands. This is what we're going to do. I want you guys to raise your hand and tell me what you guys see, okay? Now go ahead. Raise your hand. So you see, he's being run over by a car. What else? That's it, right? Pretty simple. This is what he do because he wants an actual car to run him over. And that's how he feels right now. He feels every single day of his life, he feels like there's a car running him over. Let's show the next picture, please. Can you guys see this picture? I know it's small on this, but Raise your hand and tell me what you see. Yeah. So the building, yeah, so you see like a dagger over him. Somebody's about to stab him. What else? Yeah.
It kind of looks like the world around him is causing him to like feel like this certain way towards
So if you, good. So the way the way the world is around him is that everything is, it's against him, and he feels that that he's dying. That's. Yeah. Very good, very good. So if you look at it, he's holding on to streetlights. He's basically indicating that he wants people to notice that he's still holding on, and he still wants somebody to notice him. But if you look at him, he's being dragged in to where? You see the streets? It's starting to get narrower and narrower. That means that the streets, there's no full-on street that keeps on going. The street's getting narrow on him, and things are shutting down on him, and they're closing in on him. So that's his constant thoughts every single day that he wakes up. So remember, this is how certain folks and certain individuals, they feel this way every single day. And then the last picture is actually his last picture that he drew after 6 months before he committed suicide. And that's him, he committed suicide by hanging himself. But now what do you guys see in this picture? What do you notice? Yeah. Do you guys see that? Everything is alive around him, but if you take a look at him, it's just him hanging. Everything else is alive, it's colorful, it's beautiful. Do you know what he was trying to say? This tree gives life, right? It gives life to apples, greens, different things, right? Even the apples represent other people, humans, and happiness, but he's the only apple, basically the only person that's on the tree that feels that way. And before he committed suicide, that was his last picture. Yeah.
kind of almost like
The world was going to go on without him. The world is going to go on without him. All right? So let's continue. So again, now we're talking about social media posts. I know we're all in social media. We use social media on a day-to-day basis. Now let's talk about posts. I'm starting to give up on life. What do you do when you see something like this? Have you guys ever reached out to anybody that you know of, that you don't know of, that actually had status on social media? And guarantee me, and I promise you guys have come across people that actually always post negative thoughts, negative feelings, emotions about how life is challenging and they don't want to live. Anybody? When you had your hand up? You had your hand up, right? Or no? Okay. You have?
Yeah.
You come across that? Do you want to share anything what it had said?
Well, like usually on social media there's like spam accounts, but people, their close friends, like post to their close friends.
Uh-huh.
And so basically they feel like that's an outlet and they say something.
Okay. So it's like a group of friends
Yeah.
just talking about their, sharing their thoughts and feelings?
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Good. And do you guys, okay, so what do you guys do? What do the friends do though? Okay, so it's like a support group that you guys have created for each other, which is good. At least you guys have a good support group to do that.
It's like, the spam is like a private Instagram account, and you open it and let select people to see your opinion. So it's like a regular Instagram account.
Okay.
Let's say, like, this is my spam, like, I'll just post a random picture,
Uh-huh.
and the caption will not be, like, what the picture's about. It'll just be, like, oh, like, about my day or how I feel.
Okay.
Like he said, people kind of use this as an outlet to, like, show what's really going on. It's like a diary. Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically like an Instagram diary.
Oh, that's just.
It's a regular Instagram, but, like, it's just a spam.
Okay. I'm not aware that I have to actually catch up on that. Yeah. Yes. Seriously? Yeah, that has happened before too. There's times where certain folks have used that just to get things, or just to use it, as people say, as a form of attention. But still, what you want to do is that anytime anybody talks negatively or they say something like this or they have a post about killing themselves, what you want to do is you want to be able to intervene. You want to be able to make sure that even those comments, even if you know that the person is not serious about it, make sure that you're asking the question and you're approaching them and asking them if if they have any suicidal thoughts or not, or if things are okay with them. All right. So now let's talk about some writing suicide notes. I'm going to read this to you guys, and I want your guys' thoughts on this. Okay. It says, to family, I love you. I hope you all got my last picture I sent you guys. Just know I love you all. Bye. Now, my question here to you guys is, do you guys see the handwriting? How old do you think this person is? Not even 10. Not even 10. 7. 7 years old. 7 years old. The 7-year-old. So now look at this. This is a 7-year-old who actually wrote this before they ended up. Do you know what they ended up doing? Huh? They didn't hang themselves. They jumped off. They jumped off top of a building. Yeah. They lived in a higher building. They lived in a higher building, and this kid had jumped off. And there was another story of another kid who luckily lived. Do you know what he did when he wanted to kill himself? Was he ran into a car. And that happens. That happens. Or they hang themselves. They hang themselves. Yeah. I don't know what he actually said. That was one of the stories that we had collected from the family member. But as far as I know, the kid is in good health. Other than that, we don't know what has gone further. How the kid's doing. We don't know that yet. Yeah. Alrighty? Yeah. What happened? This here, guys. This here. What? Guys, come on. Let's take this seriously. No. It's a different person. It's a different person. The last picture? Oh, the social media post? Oh, the last picture. So we don't have the picture. We have the note. We didn't get the picture. The family didn't give the picture. They give the note though. Okay? Now let's move on to a different one that I'm going to read off to you guys. It says, please tell the girls how much I love them and cannot stand the thoughts of being apart from them. Kiss them from me every day. It's a mom. It's a mother. It's a mother who actually wrote this before she ended her life. And do you guys see this? Do you know what these things are? Tear marks. These are tear marks as she was crying. You guys are good. You guys are very good. These are actual factual tear marks before she attempted, and killed herself. Okay? So now the question here comes is now what? Now what can we do? There's 3 things that I want you guys to learn as we go forward. Not yet. As we go forward, and these are the 3 things that I want you guys to learn and to know going forward. So number 1 is to ask, number 2 is to listen, and number 3 is to link. And how are we going to do that, right? So how do you help a suicidal person? Most important thing to do if you think someone is at risk, just simply by asking them, are you thinking of killing yourself? Do you guys think that's something that's easy to ask, or do you think that that's a little challenging for you guys to do? Why is it too challenging? Guys, let's raise your hand. I want to hear this. Yeah. It's straightforward, but okay, straightforward.
And I feel like the likelihood of someone actually saying yes, even or just saying yes, I am, just to that question is not very likely.
You don't think it's likely? Okay. So you said they'll ignore it. They won't mention the fact that they have suicidal thoughts, or they want to kill themselves. What else? What do you guys think? Yeah. It would help? Okay, good. What else? You might say the wrong thing, right? So I'm going to tell you guys what can you do, how can you lead on the conversation. So let me give you guys a scenario. When you guys meet someone, right, for the first time, somebody that's very new to you, let's say you meet someone at a different school, at a school competition, or out of the state. What allows you to connect with another individual? How do you connect with somebody? Commonalities. Very good. Things that are common. So when you ask someone who has suicidal thoughts, are you thinking of killing yourself? Do you know what you're doing? You're asking them, first and foremost, that person will will realize that you care, and secondly, it's something that it's commonly connected to them. It's relatable to them. So for that, they're going to open up to you. They'll talk to you. So now the second thing I want you guys to do is, our picture number one. When someone says yes, I am thinking of killing myself. This is our first reaction. It's our first reaction, isn't it? Like, oh my God, like what do I do? Usually this is usually what happens, is that when somebody comes and says I want to kill myself, and again I know it's funny at the moment, but if you get someone to come to you and say I want to kill myself, and they're crying, at that moment you will not be laughing, I guarantee you. You're going to be puzzled, you're going to be frozen. You're going to be in a state of shock. You're not going to know what to do. And you're going to feel like there's a huge burden on you. Okay, this is our reaction, literally. Again, what we usually do is we put like a bandage on top of it. It's okay, things will get better. How do you know? How do you know things are going to get better tomorrow for them? We don't know that. So, next one. So the reaction they need is a light and hope. So how do we do that? Well, if the answer is yes, again, take a deep breath. At that moment, you want to be in control of the conversation, guys. Take a deep breath and follow up with an empathetic question. How are you, first, the moment, they say, yes, I want to kill myself, tell me more about it. How can I be of support? How can I help you? And then number two step is that after asking directly the following question, an empathetic question, what you want to do is you want to listen. Listen to their reasons for wanting to die and allow them the space to talk about the pain. So this is something that what they are going to do is they're going to talk, and they're going to talk a lot. When this happens, you have to listen to them. Don't give them your feedback. They don't want to hear your feedback. They just want to talk to you, to somebody where they can go ahead and express their feelings. They can express their emotions, their thoughts, their ideas, even how challenging life has been for them. Do you know why they do that? And why they want somebody to just listen to them? They want to be noticed because nobody has ever noticed them. Nobody gives them the chance. Nobody allowed that opportunity. So everything that builds on the inside, gets built up deeper and deeper inside of them, that actually causes them negative. That causes the negative effect. And for that, they they have suicidal thoughts. So yeah, just listen to them. Easy and simple. You don't have to do anything. Just listen to them. And step three, is to link. And then how do you do that? How do you link him? Well, if you know anybody in the community, for instance, link a youth, for instance, you can to an adult who is trained in suicide prevention. If you know someone who's well equipped, you say, you know what, I know somebody that can help you, and make a hand warm off. Take him to the professional, connect that individual to someone that can benefit from a good service. You can call the 24-hour hotline, this DDR suicide prevention hotline. I brought some flyers you guys can take. Keep it with you. It can help. It can save a life. Yeah, all right? So do that. Again, school resources. You can talk to the masjid. You can talk to your teachers, administrators. They can be helpful. Collaborate with other adults that you trust that will make sure that they'll take care of you, or they'll take care of your friends. Again, stay calm. Continue to be alert for future risk, and then follow up if possible. We go to the next one. Do you have anything? Okay. Let's play this video. I want to play this video. So this basically talks about empathy and sympathy. So when I asked you guys to listen to this individual discussing somebody that wants to talk about their challenges, just listen to them and be very empathetic. Okay. So this kind of talks, this is a good video that talks about empathy and sympathy. Okay. No. What happened? I'm trying. Let's see if the volume is perfect. Thank you. Can you guys see now? All right, thank you. Where's the speaker?
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. I have it, yeah. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. At least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Okay, good. So, what did you guys think about the video? Good video? You liked it? So what did you get from the video? Yeah.
I like that it like separated like sympathy from empathy and kind of like told us what not to do.
It separated, discussing, what empathy and compared to sympathy, what it is. So what did you guys notice? And what did I tell you guys? What do we want to use? Huh? Do you want to use empathy, or do we want to be empathetic to that individual, or do you want to be sympathetic? Empathetic, right? Yeah, absolutely. Because we want to make sure that, for instance, if we want that individual to understand, we have to be, we have to, number one, relate. And also, just to listen to them, we have to be empathetic in terms of hearing them out and not giving our own judgments. Alrighty? Because throughout life, what ends up happening is that if you have, something that you are, let's say you're in a dark place or in a dark time, you want to be able to come out of that dark space. But anytime you went to an individual, you talked to, let's say, your parents, you came to school, or myself, and let's say if I'm somebody who's very sympathetic and I say, you know what, it's all right, things will get better, just keep going, just kind of brush it off. Does that solve the problem? It doesn't, right? You kind of get brushed off. It does make it worse, and it seems like no one cares. That's what ends up happening. So when you're empathetic, you're there to hear and you're there to listen to an individual. Alrighty? So again, if you're not thinking about suicide, you are not alone. Please tell a safe adult. And this is for the youth specifically. Don't keep anyone's suicidal thoughts or plan a secret. Please do not do that. I know sometimes it becomes secretive. A friend of yours could say, please don't tell anybody I have suicidal thoughts. It's nothing to play around with. Honestly, don't play around with stuff like this. Reason why I say that, remember that being a good friend can save and help a life. Okay? Again, tips for family members. Check in about emotional and mental health and suicide topics. Have the difficult conversations. Talk to your family, even for yourself, if you guys want to talk to your parents about this. I usually go out and I also talk to the parents, and I always tell them, have these conversations with your kids as well, because these are important conversations. And not just that, but to make sure that if your child comes to you, that they're not in trouble, but you have to be proud of them, for them to come and speak to you. Because what ends up happening, what I've learned and what I've noticed in our community is that kids don't go to their parents because either they're afraid, either their parents think it's not serious, or they don't care. What else? Has anybody, anything else? Yeah. You're too young to feel like that. Seems like you have no, you can't feel what they're feeling or other people feel, right? Which is, not true. Uh-huh. Yeah. So she said that that's something that only people who are, Americans, white Americans, go through stuff like this. But with data, statistics showing that this happens to everyone. We live in the same world. We live in the same community. We all go through the same challenges, the same difficulties.
Sometimes parents because they do so much to try and give us the best, and they can't really prevent certain things like mental health things and stuff. Sometimes these things just happen. So parents will they'll almost guilt you for it. What reason do you have to be upset?
I give to you everything.
And I give you everything, and you're not pleased still. It's
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. Absolutely. There's times where parents also tell the children that I've given you so much. I go to work. I make sure that there's food over. You have a roof over your head. You have food. I buy you what you need. But again, that becomes more of a commodity. Materialistic things. That's where we don't come to an understanding, or where the parents, they don't understand, or they don't connect with the child in terms of emotions and feelings. And that's where it becomes hard for the parent, because the parent also need to come and be able to be more empathetic and kind of connect with their own kids. That's where there's the gap, as well, as we always call the generational gap, where for those that have been raised here or they have grown here in America, it's we grew up in a system that's very different than how your parents are raised. So it's two different systems, two different way of seeing life, and that's why we have that generational gap in today's society. Thank you for sharing that. That's very good. Again, help youth identify other safe adults other than their parents and caregivers who can help them. And then again, use this presentation I just had that I'm talking about, and then start an open communication with your own household as well. All right, guys? If you go. Okay. That was passed. Again, if you guys want to take a picture, I have flyers. I will pass down some flyers to you. But this is, suicide prevention hotline. If you go to the next one. Community resource, what can you do? So again, there's going to be people that come to you and say, what, I have suicidal thoughts. Okay, thoughts. So I'm going to give you two different things, thoughts and actual suicidal intent behind them taking plans and for them to go forward and for them to take action on those suicidal thoughts. Number one, if you have suicidal thoughts, anybody can get thoughts. Okay, everyone has thoughts. That doesn't mean that a person would go ahead and commit suicide. Understand that. There's times where, even us as individuals, we've usually told ourselves, God, like this, I just don't want to be alive right now. You say that in the moment, right? You can always follow up with a question, hey, were you serious about that, or are you just planning to kill you? Are you just messing around? Oh, it was just a thought that came to my mind. I would never do it. That's okay. That happens. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us thoughts, we get thoughts all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. But yes, if it's at times where they say, I have thoughts of suicide, and you ask them, well, do you have any plans? Now, be very mindful here. When they say yes, there's an intent behind it, I'm actually thinking of committing suicide by taking my life this way. The moment they give you a plan, if they know the date, the time, what they're going to use to kill themselves, right away. Don't hesitate. Call 911. Tell an adult. Okay? Tell an adult, call 911. And the other thing is that you can always help them call Didi Hirsch, Didi Hirsch hotline. The centralized assessment team. Dr. Taif, we have a centralized assessment team here, right? No? Okay. So I have to find out. Maybe I can give you guys information on the centralized assessment team. It's a county program. The reason why I got this is because this is Orange County. I have it in Orange County. So the way the team works is that the centralized assessment team, we make a call. Somebody from the county comes in and does an assessment with that individual that has suicidal thoughts. If it's something not severe, they'll say, you know what, this was just in the moment, they'll go. They'll just send him back home. If this is something that's very serious and this individual is harmful to himself, we'll call the ambulance and we'll take him to the hospital. And then now they're placed in the hospital for a minimum of 72 weeks. They're on a hold. It can go as far as 2 weeks till this treatment started, and then there's severe inpatient treatment for them, okay? Again, next page. So that's about it for my presentation. As I'll pass out flyers. Please ask me questions. I do have surveys I want you guys to fill out to tell me how the presentation was. Okay, guys? Yes, Dr. Taif. Sorry, did I say 72? 70, it is 72 hours minimum, and then it goes to at least 2 weeks or more. Thank you for correcting me that. I can't believe I said 72 weeks. Thank you for saying that. So now, guys, thank you for, again, thank you for being here, guys. Now I want to open this, we have time left for open dialogues and discussions. Oh, somebody has put a comment. Okay, we have live stream as well. So let's take this question and then we'll answer it. Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, something, social media, again, thank you, Brother Mukhtar, for sharing that with us. Due to, social outlets, celebrities who have committed suicide, people thinking that it's a form of, or a pathway to go ahead and committing suicide. It's actually not, it's not. You want to, first and foremost, you don't want to go into a route that's not Islamic too. And the other thing is that, as you had mentioned, 13 Reasons Why, that's also one of the shows that actually caused a lot of trauma and suicidality. And there's another game, I remember, it's called the Momo something. What is it? Blue Whale, and then there's one with Momo. Something with Momo. Momo Challenge, guys. So remember, psychologically, again, you guys are very young. In situations like this, when you guys feel very discomforted in life, or you guys get very discomforted in times where you think that someone is putting pressure on you, don't ever feel that way. Come and talk to a safe adult. Always talk to a safe adult, okay? Don't feel like if somebody tells you something, or you internalize something very negatively, that I can't share my thoughts with anybody, or else somebody is going to go ahead and make fun of me. Someone's not going to go ahead and support me. Don't ever do that, because that can cause a lot of problems in life for you guys. So I always encourage you guys, if you get those thoughts, please tell somebody. So now let's go forward and let's ask do you guys have any questions, any suggestions? Yes. Yeah. Good question. So, sister just asked, have I ever come across anybody who actually had tried committing suicide? I have plenty. So I'll give you one case scenario. I had worked with a 22-year-old young man. He came from Iran. Okay, he came from Iran. He lived here by himself. So what ended up happening was that he had priorly committed suicide twice back home. Life was very challenging. He had attempted to commit suicide twice back at home. So number one, guys, let's hear this, because somebody asked a question, so let's be respectful of them. Number one, they tried taking medication. They tried overdosing, and then he was revived. And then the second time, he tried wrapping himself around a cord, cord around his neck to kill himself. It didn't work out. So he came here. I asked him during our session, as I was talking to him too, when I did an assessment with him, I asked him, do you have suicidal thoughts now? And he said that, what I had done back home, I would never do it again because life is so precious. and I'll tell you, just hear me out, and I'll tell you certain things. So he told me life is so precious. You know, even when he was talking to me, he was actually my first, one of the clients that I was providing legal advocacy to, who I came across who was suicidal too. And I listened to him and I said, yeah, you know what? He loves life and things are going well. So back, you know, going forward, a couple of months later, he had a legal case against him going forward. So what happened in that legal case was that, you know, usually when you get accused of something and then there's a criminal case against you, you need to take out loans to be out of court, out of prison. So that was the scenario for him. So he was out of prison, but on the day of when I went to court with him, one of the individuals who actually signed for his bail bond took, you know, they signed off the bail bond. They didn't want to support him anymore. So at that moment, do you know what happened? Do you know what happened to him? He didn't feel isolated, but at that moment, the judge ordered the bailiff to handcuff him and bring him in now, because there's no more loans to support him. There was nobody there to take liability on his behalf, right? And again, he's being convicted, which I'll tell you for something, you know, he did not do. And so what had happened was right in front of me, they put handcuffs behind, you know, in the back of his head, and I just saw his whole aura, his face. You can see, I was able to actually feel, it felt like a soul just coming out of him. I felt a soul coming out of this young man, where, you know, his face changed, he became very red. He was just looking like this. This was him, I swear, this was him, just looking down, and he didn't know what to do, and his head was shaking. And I remember he would always tell me, I don't ever want to go to prison, I'm very scared. He's 22. He has no parents here, nobody. He's just him by himself. So at that time, I tried talking to him. He was like, he was on my left-hand side. He was like right here while he was getting the handcuffs. And I was calling out for him to see if he wanted, you know, I was checking to see if he was okay. Didn't reply. So I went to him and I shook him, and he was like shooken up. He was like, what's going on? He couldn't process his thoughts because there was so many things going on, right? At that time and place, his mind went to a stage of shock where he couldn't process. He couldn't think straight. So 2 weeks after, so what I had done was, with one of his friends, we went to, you know, get another bail bond under his name to get him out of prison, you know, out of jail. So what had happened, I saw him 2 weeks later. He came to me, when I first saw him, I was very happy, you know, and I was very energetic. I was like, wow, I get to see him. As I saw him and he was sitting in front of me, I said, how are you doing? The first thing he did, he didn't say anything. Do you know what he did? He showed me his wrists. There was 2 marks on his wrist. 2 marks. And what he had done, he had glasses. You see the tip of your glasses? He tried committing suicide. The first day when he was took inside. He tried committing suicide. And one of the things that I learned personally and professionally was that anybody who actually has attempted to commit suicide before, they're going to do it. Because do you know why that is? Because they've done it once, they can go back to it again. They can go back to it again. So always remember that too. If anybody has committed any attempt of committing suicide, they'll go to it again. But to answer your question, that was one of the my own personal cases that I had worked with. But alhamdulillah, even with him, I think it was like 3 months after when he was released, court case was good to go. He was not found guilty, and he's living a very comfortable, happy life, and he's working, and he's very happy now. Yeah.
Have you ever helped someone and then they still they were committed suicide?
So the question was that, have you ever helped someone and then later on they went and then committed suicide? At the moment, no. And alhamdulillah, thankfully, I have not had anybody who actually has committed, fully committed suicide under my care. So what I do is also that once I have someone, who comes to me, on a regular basis for therapy session, I actually give them my number, my emergency contact number. So what I do is with my clients, we have a long-term relationship during that treatment period where anytime you have thoughts, bad thoughts, suicidal thoughts, text me, call me. Because at that time, your mind goes to a dark moment, and then I usually have them give me a call, and I talk through what they're feeling, why are they feeling this certain way, what's going on, what can we do differently to make sure that you don't go through, you don't have these dark moments and dark thoughts. Yeah, but at the moment, no, I've never had anybody who actually had done it. Any other questions, guys? Yes. Uh-huh. Yes, thank you for sharing that. So the topic of bullying comes up a lot, right? Especially when it comes to schools. One of the things that we've noticed is that when you bully somebody, or let's say I'm being bullied, if I tell myself that if I have suicidal thoughts, first and foremost, why do I get suicidal thoughts? Well, let me even before that, let me tell you guys something. Anybody that bullies you, can I tell you something? Factual reason why a person bullies you? A person who is a bully is insecure. They're bullied themselves. They don't have a happy life. You know that, right? They don't have a happy life. They have a lot of pressure at home. Maybe their parents they have a bad relationship. Maybe they're being scolded by someone else, their parents. So they need to release anger. How do they do that? Well, in order for me to feel good, I have to release. And how do I release my anger? I bully somebody, right? I bully somebody. So remember that. Anybody who's actually being bullied, remember that any person that is bullying you, they're also going through a rough time. They just don't know how to help themselves. And there's nobody there to help them. That's number one. Number two, when it comes to actual individuals, let's say if I'm being bullied, if I think that, obviously you get a lot of pressures and you get a lot of, hate, and you don't like yourself, or you think that, you know what, if I'm going to go ahead and try to commit suicide, I'm going to try to commit suicide to make things easier and allow the bully to feel that, it was because of you that I died. And what's just false. Nothing's going to happen. The only person, first and foremost, you're causing pain to is yourself. The most, yourself first. Remember that. Your parents, your loved ones. The bully is going to probably feel bad for a couple of days. He's going to go on. He's going to move on with his life. Nothing's going to change. But what is going to change, if someone is bullying you, you talk to administration. Because again, I'd be very honest with you, there's something that has happened in the pattern of how we are raised, or what we see. We just don't know how to cope. We just don't know how to cope well. It either be the boys or the girls. Bullying goes both ways. So remember that if you think that you have a hard time where if you are a bully, that you don't know how to control yourself, or you think that it's funny to cause pain to others, it's really not. It's really not funny. And I'll be very honest with you guys. You guys are causing a lot of damage. So, and also for those that are also victims of bullying, talk to school administrators. They can always help as well. Okay. The easiest thing is to talk about it, guys. And the reason why I say that is when we go out and we always tell families to promote counseling services to make sure that so we can help the families. That there's two things I've realized. Number one, parents don't send their kids to counseling services. That's number one, and I've always talked about this because they're afraid of what the child's going to say, right? And then number two, parents don't come to counseling services because they think they know everything. That's the other thing, and it's part of reality. It's part of reality. So for that, anytime you come in and you seek counseling services, we always tell families and individuals, everything you tell us stays confidential, stays between you and I. We don't even tell the parents what goes on, unless it's a life-threatening situation. If a youth comes to us and they want to go ahead and talk and have a one-on-one session, we're not going to tell your parents. Yes, we need a parent consent form. They need to make sure that your child is seeking counseling, but you're just coming and sharing your thoughts and emotions. It's nothing hard, There's nothing bad about it. You're just coming and you're just talking about how can you better make life easier for yourself and for your friends around it. Because if you don't come to counseling, do you know what ends up happening? Is you're going to go to your friend and you're going to talk about the challenges that you're going through, right? What ends up happening over time with your friend? They get tired of hearing you. They get tired of hearing you, and I'll be honest with you. They get tired of hearing you because they're like, oh my God, I have to listen to the same thing over and over. Because nothing happens. Nothing changes, right? Even though you're telling your friend, over time they'll burn out. They'll burn out, and not just that, but you want to go to somebody who's specialized that can help make the process so much easier so you can take certain actions and steps to make your life much easier, right? Would you rather talk to your friends about something like, for instance, bullying or any family matter or a situational issue that's going on, or would you rather have that be done with a counselor and then you talk to your friend about let's go and let's do an activity. Just fun stuff. Alrighty, guys? Somebody else had a question? Do you have a question?
I think I was just gonna add that, like, I think there's also just like a taboo about like oh, my child goes to like therapy.
Yes, that is true. There's a taboo behind the fact that my child is going to therapy. That and what I've heard in the community. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just also gonna add. It's also like some parents might feel like it's like they failed as a parent, and their child has to go somewhere else to get some that kind of help.
Can I tell you something? And usually wherever I go and I do presentations, people know me and I'm very open about talking to them. I myself, I seek therapy myself. As a professional, I seek therapy. Because even as a therapist, we have to go seek therapy. Because I don't want to go home and and talk about my clients and my situation and how I feel at home, at work, at home. I don't want to put a burden over my wife or my parents. So they don't want to hear that. I don't want them. I want to be able to enjoy my life, and be able to do things at home with my parents, with my wife, with my brother and sisters. Why would I want to share, life challenges? Yeah. Yeah, I go to therapy. Why not? Why not? The doctors have to go to the doctors, right? So again, it's a normal thing, guys. I know. So this is what has happened. So we're gonna end pretty quick. So this is how things work out, and it's not your parents' fault either. It's not our parents' fault. What has happened is that if you go back home, to your own ethnic country, what has happened is there hasn't been a mental health professional there. And the field wasn't there at that time. So what had happened was that whenever there was a family matter or an issue that took place, what ended up happening was that the family would talk amongst each other. They would talk amongst the elders, the community, the village, their religious leaders. So now as we've progressed here in the US with education, we've come to realize that no, it's a whole different field. And for that, we're trying to educate everybody to make sure that, there's nothing wrong with going and talking to somebody. There's nothing wrong. You can save some time, make things easier for yourself, and go enjoy life with your loved ones. Khalas. As simple as it is. So alrighty, it's just a perspective of how you think. If you think therapy is bad, then may Allah be with all of us. So there's a reason why everybody has professional. There's always professionals out there. There's a reason why the teacher is a teacher, an imam's an imam, a doctor is a doctor. They're specialized in those fields, and that's what we have is professionals, mental health professionals. Okay. So for that, I'm going to conclude it, and I just have surveys and handout for you guys. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.